You have a solid AI governance policy. But does your system actually follow it? That gap between words and code is where risks hide.
By the end of this lesson, you will explain how AI governance policies become concrete architecture decisions. This translation closes the gap between intent and implementation.
A written policy says, ensure fairness. That is a goal, not a specification. The translation happens when you define a concrete constraint. For example, a fairness policy becomes a maximum disparity threshold of 5% across demographic groups. That threshold then dictates an architectural control point. You place an audit gate at the model output layer to measure and enforce it. This is policy to architecture translation. An architectural control point is a specific system component where governance is enforced. Think of an input validation gate. It checks data against a fairness policy before the model processes it. A model output filter applies a transparency rule after inference. An audit logging module records every decision for accountability. These are the enforcement locations. Without them, policy is just text. Take a hiring AI. A policy says rankings must be fair. The architecture needs a control point. That point is a fairness gate. It sits between the model and the output. The gate checks the demographic parity ratio. If the ratio exceeds 0.8, it rejects the ranking. The system logs the rejection. Then it triggers a fallback process. This is how a written rule becomes a technical constraint. Here is where it gets technical.
A credit AI must comply with explainable decisions. The policy requires a reason for every denial. The architecture adds an explainability module. This module uses SHAP to compute feature contributions. It generates a plain text explanation for each applicant. The module sits after the model but before the output. A 2023 survey found 95% of deployed models lacked this module. Without it, the system violates policy. The module is the control point. So now you see the pattern. Policy is not a document. It is a set of architectural control points. Governance must be embedded into the system, not just written down. That is how you prevent governance drift.
Open the AI Governance Toolkit from the Open Source Policy Lab. Pick one policy requirement from your organization. Map it to a specific architectural control point in your system. This exercise takes about 20 minutes. Start now.